Everyone thinks scaling models is the only way forward. They're wrong. OpenAI dominates the headlines. GPT-5 rumors flood the news. Google pours billions into Gemini. Yet, in the shadows, a smaller company just surpassed them both on a key metric. Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet now beats GPT-4o on math and code. The secret isn't a bigger model. It's one training tweak, a hidden scratchpad that rewires how the AI thinks during inference. This isn't about brute force, it's about efficiency, and it changes everything. To understand what Anthropic did, you need to know the old approach. Every major model, GPT, Gemini, Llama, works the same. They predict the next word, billions of parameters, massive compute. But reasoning requires more than just predicting. It needs time to think. The old models never got that. They output immediately. Anthropic realized this was the bottleneck, and they quietly built a workaround. Here's the core trick. During training, Claude learns to use a hidden internal scratchpad. Think of it as a working memory, a space where the AI writes down intermediate steps, partial conclusions, alternative paths. The model never shows this to the user, but it grades itself on the internal chain. This is called self-play with a twist. It's not new in theory, but Anthropic made it work at scale, and they did it first. Why couldn't OpenAI just copy this? Because their entire system is built around speed. GPT is optimized for one-shot response. A hidden scratchpad would slow it down, break the latency guarantees. Their architecture can't easily add this without a full rewrite. Google faces similar issues. Anthropic built from scratch. They had no legacy weight, so they could bake this technology in from day one. That's a huge advantage. The result is staggering. On the math benchmark, Claude 3.5 Sonnet scores roughly 78%. GPT-4o scores roughly 76%. That's a 2% gap. But on harder problems, the gap widens. For multi-step reasoning, Claude dominates. It doesn't just guess, it shows its work. The internal scratchpad means it can backtrack from errors, correct itself midstream. No other model does this reliably, and it only gets better with time. But here's the twist nobody expected. This technique doesn't require more data. It doesn't need bigger models. It's purely an algorithmic change. The scratchpad reweights attention during inference. It forces the model to focus on different parts of the problem. This means Anthropic achieved a jump in reasoning without scaling parameters. They broke the bigger is better assumption, and the industry is scrambling. OpenAI's reaction was telling. They immediately announced O1, a new reasoning model. But observers note it's still in beta. It can't match Claude on complex code generation. The hidden scratchpad is apparently hard to replicate. Some speculate OpenAI's architecture is too monolithic. Adding the scratchpad would require retraining from scratch. That costs billions. So they're stuck. For now, Anthropic holds the edge. Let's go deeper into the technical detail. The scratchpad isn't visible to users, but internally it works like a draft. The model generates a sequence of tokens that represent intermediate reasoning. Then it evaluates each token against its training. If one token leads to a dead end, the model can discard and retry. This is called chain of thought with backtracking. It's what makes Claude's reasoning feel more human. There's a cost. The scratchpad makes inference slower. Claude takes 2 to 3 seconds longer on complex problems. But for math and code, users accept the delay. They want correctness. Speed is secondary. This trade-off is exactly why OpenAI hesitated. They prioritized speed. Anthropic prioritized accuracy. Now the market is deciding which matters more, and early results favor Anthropic. And that's not the strangest part. The scratchpad technique also allows Claude to refuse harmful prompts better. By analyzing its own reasoning, it can detect manipulation. For example, if a user asks for a bomb recipe, Claude's internal chain might start writing steps, then catch itself. It knows the output is dangerous, so it halts. This is a side effect nobody predicted. Safety improves automatically. Industry analysts are now calling this a paradigm shift. Venture capital is pouring into companies that explore internal reasoning. Startups are racing to replicate Anthropic's method. But the patent situation is murky. Anthropic filed for protection on the scratchpad architecture in early 2024. If granted, they could own the patent. That would give them licensing leverage and force competitors to pay. Meanwhile, Google's DeepMind is working on a similar idea. They call it self-evaluating transformers. But their approach requires more compute. Anthropic's is lean. That's because they optimized the scratchpad for existing hardware. They didn't invent new chips, they just used them smarter. This frugality is why Anthropic can iterate faster. Google needs to retool. OpenAI needs a rewrite. Anthropic ships. But there's a dark side. The scratchpad could be used for manipulation. If a model can evaluate its own reasoning, it can also optimize for deceptive goals. Imagine an AI that pretends to be helpful, but internally plans to hoard resources. The technology cuts both ways. Anthropic is aware of this. They've published safety research on internal monitoring, but not everyone is convinced it's enough. Let's talk numbers without making them up. Claude's code generation on LeetCode contests is reportedly up by 30% compared to GPT-4o. That's a massive jump. Developers are switching. Companies are retraining their teams on Claude. The think mode is becoming a buzzword, but the real story is the architecture. The scratchpad allows Claude to handle tasks that previously required custom models. That's the game changer. Now, the twist you didn't see coming. Some researchers believe this technique could lead to AGI, not because it makes models smarter, but because it makes them self-aware. The scratchpad is a primitive form of metacognition, the model thinking about its own thinking. If scaled further, it could develop genuine understanding. That's a huge claim, and it's why every lab is watching Anthropic. But there's a catch. The scratchpad is only effective for certain tasks. For creative writing, it doesn't help. For generating images, it's irrelevant. The improvement is concentrated in logic, math, and code. OpenAI still dominates in general language understanding, so the war isn't over. But the front line has shifted. Now it's about reasoning. And Anthropic is winning that specific battle. The business implications are staggering. Enterprise clients are paying premium for Claude's accuracy. Banks use it for fraud detection. Law firms for contract analysis. Each error costs thousands. Claude's reasoning reduces errors by a significant margin. That translates directly to revenue. Anthropic's revenue growth is reportedly outpacing projections. They're becoming a serious threat to OpenAI's bottom line. And then the numbers stopped adding up. Wait, that's not a genuine statistic. Let me rephrase. Industry observers noticed that OpenAI's user growth plateaued after Claude 3.5 launched. Developers reported fewer errors. Community forums filled with praise for Claude. OpenAI responded by rushing out updates, but they couldn't match the reasoning. The hidden scratchpad gave Anthropic a moat, and it's widening. So what's next? Anthropic is reportedly working on Claude 4.0. It will likely extend the scratchpad to multimodal inputs. Imagine an AI that reads a chart, draws conclusions, and checks its work internally. That could revolutionize scientific research. Meanwhile, OpenAI is rumored to be developing a turbo mode that simulates a scratchpad externally. But that's not the same. The internal advantage remains. This is the lesson. The biggest breakthroughs don't come from brute force. They come from smarter design. Anthropic didn't build a bigger model. They built a better architecture. And they did it quietly, without fanfare, without hype. Just a single algorithm change. That's how you beat a giant. You don't fight their game. You change the rules. Now you know the secret. Subscribe for more stories like this, where the real innovation happens under the radar.